Okay, so let's talk now about the questions, the two unconscious questions that self-esteem is answering in any given moment. The very first question is, am I worthy? Am I worthy of this situation? Am I worthy of this? Now, the second one is, can I trust myself? So when you answer these two questions, yeah, of course I'm worthy, and yeah, of course I trust myself, self-esteem, evaluation of self, quite happy with myself. But these are really interesting questions to answer, really interesting questions to answer for yourself as to, well, where did you come up with the conclusions here? Because when you were a baby, you never really questioned, am I worthy? You go watch a 2-year-old have a tantrum, or a 3-year-old have a tantrum when it doesn't get its chocolate or its lolly or its ice cream. It thinks it's worthy. That 2-year-old, that 3-year-old says, I'm worthy of that chocolate and I'm pissed off you're not giving it to me. It has a tantrum, has a flip out, has a complete freak out. And that is really fascinating to observe from the outside world as an adult. Someone who's studying psychology is like, that little child doesn't know, has not had put into them that I'm not worthy because I want my ice cream. And now when we get into, can I trust myself? That's a really interesting one. Because can I trust myself? If the answer is, well, I've got a lot of evidence in my database that I can trust myself, right? And so if you've had lots of experiences where you've trusted yourself, you're going to have a good self-esteem. But if you have a lot of experiences where you've had negative outcomes because of how you've behaved, that's when your self-esteem is going to take a hit. And this is where I'll bring in the piece then from the area of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And in NLP, we get into another piece here where NLP, we talk about your values. What is important to your nervous system? There are certain values that are really important, and when you get them, when you live to them, when your actions align with that, you feel awesome. But when you are not living in alignment with your values, you feel terrible, right? So this is an evaluation of you. Are you living to your values? And this is coming into, am I worthy? Well, am I living to my values? And can I trust myself? Well, am I living to my values? Now, the missing piece here is, if you don't know what your values are, you're kind of screwed, right? We need to understand what these values are. And so when you are living to your values, and this is why we do the very first week or so in my coaching one-on-one with people, is I always do their values around the subject we're talking about. So if it's to do with building their business, or if it's to do with changing career, or if it's to do with leaving a job, or is there a values conflict? I've got to leave my job, but I've got to support my family, right? Or maybe they're trying to win the gold medal at the Olympics. I don't know. I mean, there might be something where they're trying to achieve a certain thing. There's going to be a series of values in there, right? Now, sometimes our actions are not aligning. And if we're not aware of our values, how the heck can we answer these questions? Am I worthy? Well, I'm worthy if I'm living to my values, but I don't know what they are. They are unconsciously put in there by your environment, by your parents, by your upbringing, by a whole range of things as you went along. But then these values sometimes come from voids. You've had something that didn't work out and it was important to you when you were younger, and that's now become this really emotional value that you want. Equally, you could have got something that was so exciting and it really lifted you up, that was a clue as to what your values were. So when you do a value session, it's really important that you do these values in a hierarchy of the most important down. And when we do this, we then have a bit more of a blueprint on how to help you change your actions this week. Like tomorrow, today, if you knew your number one value was I don't know, was growth, or your number one value when clients value is being trustworthy, you know, and if you're not living in alignment with that, if you've got a job where it's a bit dodgy and the trustworthiness is ripping people off, you know, it's going to be a values conflict, and you're going to soldier through to pay the bills and feel rubbish about it, right? So if we understand these, we can start to plan our life, design our life, take our actions in alignment with our values, right? And we can start to say, well, am I worthy? Well, I'm living to my values. Yeah, I'm worthy. There's not a doubt about that. So the more often you live to your values, the more often you are living to your top 3 or 4 values, and the more often you can make decisions around that, you're going to think, well, yeah, I'm worthy straight away. The more often you do not live to your values, the more often that you break those rules where your structure of your life is set up to break all your values, you're not going to think you're very worthy, are you? So, the second question, can I trust myself? Well, if you're living in alignment with your values, you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to trust yourself. You're going to know that you've got the ability to navigate your world. Even in situations where you've got to keep a job to pay the bills for the family, inside those containers, you can still have little moments where you're living to your values. And then if you do decide it's time to something in that business where you've got the job, your values have been broken enough that, okay, I really need to find another job, that's the point where there's the value conflict is gone, and now you are looking elsewhere because the value's over here. You had a threshold, but then it broke through the threshold. Now it's time to look elsewhere. So then you start looking, right? So then you go off, you're looking for another job. Will this fill my values? Well, maybe you've got to deal with the fact that you've got to, you know, pay your bills still, but you go and find another situation. And so you'll be able to trust yourself because I'm actually living in alignment with my values. And it's just so important. And I have to remind myself of this all the time. I'll write out my values. And if I don't, you can find yourself drifting at, you know, I'm making decisions, or people start making decisions for you. And then you realize, oh, hang on a minute. Why am I feeling crappy about this? Oh, I think I'm not living in alignment with my values. So I hope that's helpful. Can I trust myself, and am I worthy? 2 really great questions to ask yourself. And if you've never done a values elicitation, I will add a link to a resource that will help you do it. A very simple series of questions, or another video, which I'll record soon, on how you do that to get yourself moving. There's a range of ways of doing it, but this is really valuable. Get to know your values, and you'll then think you're worthy. You'll then trust yourself. Self-esteem going up. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Tait signing out.